Hey Bat fans, Luke here, ready to bat chat about another Bat book, and today we're going to take a look at a trade that's kind of interesting, to say the least. This one is called Batman Dark Legends, which comes from the pages of the Legends of the Dark Knight. And I know I've been doing a couple videos lately from that kind of came from that title way back in the day. And if you're not familiar with Legends of the Dark Knight, the basic premise is that those are stories that occurred during the first year of Batman's career. And you have a lot of good classic stories from that title, Shaman, Mad Monk, Monster Men, just to name a few. And the good thing about those, for the most part, those are relatively short stories that kind of stand on their own. You can kind of pick up and read, and which kind of goes a lot against the argument of stories today. And I know I'm not the only person to say this. Pretty much any YouTuber out there who reads comic books will say the same thing. But with the exception of like a very few titles, things like Batman Black and White, or the newer one, New 52 Era, Legends of the Dark Knight. Rarely do you see stories where there really are like short stories, one or two issues max. Pick them up and kind of read at your leisure type of thing. And there's not really like the sprawling long stories like we've seen today. Some of my favorite stories, like the Black Mirror. I believe that's 12 issues. You'll have the Court of Owls slash Night of Owls. That's 12 issues. And even like the smaller stories, Death of the Family, Endgame. Those are like 6 issue stories. So rarely do you see stories today that come out that are just 1 or 2 issue stories, kind of pick up and kind of go from there. And what I haven't said this before, and it's something that my opinion on this is kind of growing a little bit. When you look at and this trade is a good example. I mean, these are from, again, Legends of the Dark Knight, and these collects issues 38, 39 through 40, 50, 52, and 54. So there's 4 stories. But the one thing you'll notice in a lot of trades today is like they collect every issue. Um, Look at, especially in the New 52 and beyond, it's like Volume 1 collects issues 1 through 6, Volume 2 7 through 12. And while I kind of get that a lot of these issues and these stories kind of build on each other, and like it's like a run, it's a long story, like the value of the trade is just like, if you're reading single issues, I mean, why get the trade type of thing. So this is why I like these older trades, is that, I mean, they mean something. um, they really do focus on a theme, and collect things where you don't have to get every single issue of a title collected in a trade. I mean, because a lot of those issues aren't that good, and I hate it's gonna sound kind of smug, but are they really trade worthy? But it's just something that I've been noticing, especially when you kind of reflect on these older stories. It's like I wish we kind of could go back to that. It's like not every issue has to be collected in a trade. I mean, give me a story, or give me like little smorgasbord of stories in the title, and say collected these stories, kind of tell this story, which are built on a longer collective story, or like a theme. And this is why I like stories from the Legends of the Dark Knight, because again these kind of go back to the first year of Batman's career. So going into this trade, like I said before, it's 4 issues, and it's I'm kind of torn on this because I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm not going to go too far in depth because I mean they're 4 stories. They're relatively short. So I don't want to sit there and rob anyone of the joy of reading this if you haven't read this yet. But they're good, but you'll see. I'll hold off. Because like my biggest gripe about the story is I'll just hold on to it, the trade. So this one again collects 4 stories, and the first story, and it's actually this title actually in this trade X has some good talent in it. We have Denny O'Neil, Alan Grant. You'll have Mike Mignola, Brett Blevins. So you have some pretty good talent in here. The first story, it's 2 issues. It's called The Mask. And what this story kind of tells is Batman goes up against this criminal activity that's going on, and someone that's like a sniper and actually shoots him and kind of tranquilizes him. And in doing so, he kind of loses his mind a little bit, and he wakes up in this hospital, and he's kind of like in a coma. And if you read, oh man, I'm having a complete brain fart on it. Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder's. Give me 1 second. It's a story they recently did, and I can't believe I'm having a complete brain fart on this. Last Night on Earth. There you go. So where Batman kind of wakes up out of nowhere, and he's kind of wondering who he is and kind of figuring that part out about himself. Well, this story kind of has a kind of concept like in that, where he kind of wakes up in this coma, and there's this doctor, and he's talking, and he finds out, Batman is Bruce Wayne, but really, is Batman thinking he's the Batman he is? Because when he's talking to these doctors, he's kind of reflecting like, yeah, I think I know who I am, but the doctor goes, hey, here's your costume. And it's like a flimsy, made up plastic kind of costume. So is Batman really a Batman? Is Batman kind of like a different persona? And the story is kind of going back and forth of what Batman thinks he is, where he kind of comes at a certain point, he realizes that, yeah, I am who I think I am, but then he'll come out like he jumps out the window in this one scene, and he, just like anything else, he like, it's Batman, it's no big deal, but halfway through he realizes, oh crap, my costume is not, it's a fail. But then it kind of goes back and forth, and it's really just like a psycho study of the Batman Bruce Wayne persona, where you think at the end you kind of realize that you kind of come to realization this has all just been a hallucination. But the way it kind of ends, it's like, yeah, is it really? I don't know. It was interesting. It's kind of like that. The story, you read through it, and it's kind of remembers, like, it reminds you, someone who kind of had like this near death experience, and they see the light of the tunnel, and they kind of go back and forth between death and life. And but the biggest thing about the story kind of ends is like it kind of ends in a way that this has all been a hallucination, but not really. So interesting story. And just the way it kind of ends, it's like, well, I shouldn't really even show that. But here and there, it was a good story, but it was a psycho study of the Batman, Bruce Wayne character, and it's something we talk about a lot of time about Batman. Is Batman the real character, and the mask, it really is Bruce Wayne, or is it vice versa? It's an interesting story, but it ended in a way where you really don't get the finality you think. You really don't know what this whole thing has been the whole entire time. The second story is written by Denny O'Neil with art by Brett Blevins. And before I go any further, I thought the art in the first story, the artist was Brian Talbot. It was actually pretty good. I did enjoy the art in this. It had a really dark color palette. With the story, it was kind of tell it really did match really well. Brett Blevins, his art in the story, it was okay, but it kind of had like just the way some of the character designs make you kind of tilt your head a little bit. But this is supposedly one of the first confrontations between Batman and Joker, and what's happening is Batman or Joker is creating this toxin. They actually recruits his cousin, and I believe it's his cousin, to kind of develop this toxin, and obviously kind of here and there. I'm sure many of you seen this cover before. This is issue number 50. Yeah. This was an interesting story in a way how Joker can kind of manipulate people, and the way he kind of infiltrates the crime. It's kind of like you saw in Dark Knight, where he tries to wins over the Gotham crime lords. So you do kind of see that a little bit. So you get kind of flashes of that, and then again you got the trope with the the Joker gas. So interesting. How this also kind of ends is you kind of take it for what it is. um, Batman really takes out the Joker pretty quick. But I do like how the Joker is shown to manipulate people throughout in this, and you do get that kind of like that old classic Joker persona in here, which I thought was really well done. The second story is called Tao, or Toe, I can't remember. The best way I can describe the story is think Batman Begins with the story from Batman and Robin, and man, I am sitting there and brain farting a lot today. Born to Kill, where you got Batman going out learning to be Batman. He goes off, and I know in the movie he goes Ra's al Ghul, League of Shadows, learns the arts. Well, this one he's kind of go out and he learns this kind of martial arts kind of technique, and in doing so he runs into this rival sensei who has this understudy, which Batman would call him, I think, Dragon, or I can't remember, kind of clash, and in doing so, the other people feels insulted, and this kind of goes back to current day. And this is where I kind of use the Born to Kill kind of reference, where in that story, Batman links up with Henry Ducard and is being trained, but his son is there, and ultimately what happens is later on in life, Ducard's son, the nobody, goes head to head with Batman, and you kind of get that type of feel in this story where Batman kind of goes up against the Asian crime lord that's going on in Gotham, which brings back that the dragon people, and they do kind of come head to head. The big thing I kind of had trouble grasping the story, and it kind of references a lot of like Asian culture, which I'm just kind of ignorant of, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't have the knowledge and references, I think, but they're trying to kind of talk to. So I kind of felt disconnected in that, just trying to piece everything together. But overall, the story was good. The art I really did enjoy. The art was really good in this. But again, it also ends in a really weird way. I mean, I love just the way the art was done, especially in the flashbacks. I've ever wondered how maybe Batman came up with the concept of the flying cape. Yeah, you kind of get that in the story a little bit. And he really flies out with the kite man. Hell yeah. Anyway. But yeah, this was a good story. It just ends in a little bit of an anticlimactic way to a degree, but still a good story. This leads us to, oh man, look at that. I mean, art was really good in this particular story. Last one is Sanctum. And this one was done with Mike Mignola as part of the team. And basically what happens, Batman goes to stop this person who he's kind of inferred that he murdered somebody, and he's kind of has like this cultic type of ritual that kind of goes back to someone that kind of existed previously, and we'll get in that quick second. But in the battle is one thing where the Batman no kill rule kind of gets broken here, in a way that Batman's defending himself and he actually kills this person. Neither here nor there, but the bulk of the story is what happens is during the battle, Batman's in a mausoleum, and it crashes, and he kind of goes into like a dream state. Was kind of put that way. He's knocked out, and he's kind of per se going up against this person who he's kind of stuck between the land of the living and the dead, and this person really believed in a time of the enlightenment with the sciences. This person kind of dealt more toward the magic, and he kills his wife, and he kind of wrestles with the fact that not really guilt, but he killed his wife and he hid her in the bottom of the house in Gotham. But now he's confronted and he's stuck into the land of the living and the dead. And he kind of needs Batman's powers when he comes up across him to kind of come full force. And it's kind of composed a little bit between while he murdered his wife, he comes up across Batman who actually killed someone in his self-defense. But ultimately, yeah, he's got to consume the powers of Batman to kind of break through, become the true evil monster that he is. But In doing so throughout the story, Batman ultimately does, defeat this individual, but he references again that the fact that he buried his murdered wife in the bottom of his house. And when Batman kind of comes to and kind of goes through this, he kind of comes back to the fact that he knows about. Really does want to maybe look into, is there really the dead wife of that person? He just kind of had this, I don't want to say hallucination, but near death experience, with what it's called that. Really does he want to pursue that murder mystery? And it kind of ends kind of clunky. So overall, Batman Dark Legends, you heard a theme throughout in this, is that the ending was kind of clunky. And that's generally the theme I had with this. The good thing about this, again, 4 issues. You can literally just kind of read this in bits and pieces. The Joker story had flares, was like, yeah, it's good. The first story, it was a good, psycho story of the psychology of Batman Bruce Wayne. Something we heard many times before. The third story about him and going against a pupil, I thought was good. It kind of gives you maybe some depth in the early year of Batman. Maybe again, just kind of like a coming age a little bit. Can get more depth of the Batman persona, which one thing I do like about that, and I didn't say it, is that this one kind of flushes out a little bit of the early on training of Batman, which you don't see too much. I know they kind of did a little bit when they had early on the New 52 and the Zero issues. You kind of get a little bit of that, but this one you get a lot more of it. The last story, it was interesting. It definitely had the Mike Mignola vibe to it, but the art was great. But again, I just kind of go back to all 4 of the stories. The endings were just kind of clunky. Enjoyable, had fun, clunky, but yeah. So all in all, I would give this normally maybe a 2.5 out of 5. Okay, but I'm gonna back it down to a little bit, maybe to like a 2 out of 5. The reason why I say this is out of print, hard to get your hands on it, and the only way you're gonna get this is online, and it's expensive. The cover price back in the day, $14.95. I can tell you, unless you get lucky, you ain't gonna see that price. You're gonna be going maybe $30-$40 around there. So it's kind of hard to sit there and say for $30-$40, are you really gonna get this and justify the purchase for something where it's kind of like, they're okay. Endings were kind of clunky. So I'm going to back it up to a 2 out of 5. Also with a recommendation to not really get it unless you really just want to get every Batman story out there. Because I kind of go back to the price. To believe it or not, I'm willing to bet maybe other than issue 50, you can probably get the single issues in the bargain bin somewhere. So, but again, it's kind of weird. It was okay. Clunky. Okay? Clunky. Odd. 2 out of 5. Not with my recommendation to get it. Other than, again, you really just get lucky, get it cheap, and you just want to get every Batman story out there. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman Dark Legends. Hit me up in the comments below if you read this book. We'll bat chat and kind of go from there. So, I don't know. Maybe next story we'll maybe go a little bit more modern. I don't know. I got a couple more books I would like to kind of bat chat about. We'll see. But definitely look out for one maybe next couple days. We'll kind of go from there. So anyway, until next video, take care.